Why I started giving talks, how I became a specialist by teaching, not working, how stressful is it to travel, why I don't get paid while speaking at international conferences, how I prepare myself to control my emotions during a talk, how it's a process to be approved and how hard it is, where do I find events that pay for travel. These are the topics I chose for you to answer most of your questions about public speaking techniques and how to go even further. Hello my friends, I'm Erick Wendel and today I'm gonna share some experiences with you about tech presentations I've given around the world. Gonna talk to you about what I've learned after giving more than 100 talks around the world. Today you get to know how I started, how teaching helped me to become a dev specialist, struggles you might face on this area, and some tips to help you get started and improve yourself sharing content around the world. Ready? Get a drink and let's begin. Before moving on, please don't forget to leave your like here on this video. It helps a lot with the work I've been doing here. All my social media links are here in the video, so you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and much more. This is the best thing you can do to stay in touch with everything I've been building. This is my website, and there I gather all presentations I've given, slides, photos, and much more. And as you can see, I've gone to 10 different countries and presented more than 100 talks. I hope my tips will inspire you to start producing content, growing your personal branding, and much more. I'll talk about why I started giving talks in the first place. I came from a very poor city in São Paulo in Brazil, and most of my career relies on the help of the software community. This is why I love so much about sharing content. At 2013, I started studying at the cheapest university available. I didn't know what I wanted for my life, but I did it anyway. My parents initially were helping me on affording the university costs for the first months, but still I had to work hard to fill the amount needed to not only help them pay for the university bills, but also for meals and transportation. After the first year there, I realized I wasn't learning anything about software programming. I had classes about ethics, math, writing skills, operating systems, and others. I had just one school subject focused on C++ that was teaching simple stuff such as practicing logical problems with loops. Nothing the software development market really needed. When I changed jobs to work at an IT help desk, I decided to move to another university that would teach me what I needed to start working as a software developer. And the best thing I remember is that this university offered me a big discount to move there as a push forward to make a new client. Then the final amount wasn't so different than the cheap university. I'd say my life changed when I made this decision for my career. When I got there, I felt that the other students were willing to focus on software development. And I was so lucky that I could skip some classes I had already done at the other school. So I've skipped math, ethics, and writing skills and kept relational databases, Java programming, and logical circuits. In this new place, I found some students that were already working as software developers. I was trying to get some tips from them to start working in the area right away. A guy told me that he studied at that training meant to make you a .NET developer in 3 months. He said that he had his first opportunity before finishing the training and was making real money as a junior software developer. I remember back then I was making 1,000 reals as a help desk, and the job this guy got was paying 3,000 right on the first opportunity. Well, I got crazy, but I didn't have much money to invest in it because the university was already demanding. In the end, I made a hard decision and put myself in risk. I bought this course in 12 installments. Just so you know, it only cost 2,000 reais, but still paying for university, transportation, and meals. We're already spending almost all my money. Imagine how hard it was to afford this additional cost. But I figured this must be an investment in my career, so I did anyway. In this .NET developer training, my life changed again. I met experienced developers who were pushing me forward to learn beyond university and the course itself. They showed me a flyer of an event happening on the other side of the city. A cheap training course given by experienced developers could be what I needed. to reach some network and get my first job in the tech area. When I first arrived there, I felt at home. People like me trying to learn something new every day, and this was the first time I heard about what was a software community. The software community was called .NET Coders, a community focused on teaching about programming languages in general, but most often having content about .NET Framework, Microsoft Text, and vanilla C# language. The events were usually scheduled on Eventbrite as the meetup platform wasn't a big deal here in Brazil. When I saw the flyer, it said I should bring some snacks or drinks for the coffee break. And my friend, that was a true feeling of what a community meant for me. Everyone sharing experiences and struggles and trying to evolve a bit per day. Well, after this event, I faced myself going every week to this community to attend free workshops, which usually last 4 hours about creating actual applications in practice. I'd say this practice of going to workshops every week helped me to build my project portfolio on GitHub as I was creating new projects every week. I learned how to create my first CRUD in C# using Entity Framework, SQL Server, ASP.NET MVC, Bootstrap, jQuery, and much more. And that's, my friend, was how I started giving talks and workshops. The philosophy there was simple. You learn for free, but you have to come back and share what you've learned. I follow the same philosophy when I'm organizing meetup groups or free workshop till these days. In summary, before ending those 2 training courses I was doing simultaneously, I've been to 2 different jobs in tech. In just 3 months, I got my first opportunity as a junior software developer. That only happened because people that were attending both the software community and the .NET Full training were recommending me to places they worked for. I feel like I owe this software community, and giving talks and sharing knowledge is my way to give back for every help I had in the beginning. After a few months, I started giving 4-hour workshops about things I was learning on the training courses, in the community, and the tutorials on YouTube, blog posts, and much more. I think my life changed because of the mindset of learning to teach, and it has still been helping me grow in my career till these days. I wasn't an expert on the subjects I was teaching about. I knew that, and the community was willing to learn anyway. There's no competition, just people trying to improve a bit every day. But look, while I was trying to build projects and learn how the technology works with a goal in mind meant to teach other people in the community, I felt like I was a sponge, absorbing a lot of information, trying to search for answers that other students might have during my presentations. This practice helped me to be always a step ahead of other programmers on my teams I've worked on. So I'm gonna talk to you now about how I became a dev specialist by teaching, not working for companies. Before moving on, if you've watched this video this far and haven't left your like yet, you know, right? And you should also subscribe to this channel so you're not gonna miss all the contents I've been creating here. I left here on the video description a bunch of links for you to follow me after this video. There, I also left my training courses in Portuguese, and some of them I'm building for English-speaking people. And I brought big news. I'm just releasing a new training course about mastering Node.js streams, and I think you should take a look at the course grade to get closer to it. In case you want to be notified about all content I produced, I invite you to join our Telegram channel. It's all here in the description, okay? Have you ever felt that you are staying behind the market, such as not using what the market really needs, that the company you work for is holding your back, and that the tech and project you work are so obsolete that if you quit now, you won't be enough to move to another job easily? Well, I've been there. I've been working as a software developer for almost 10 years, and the companies I've worked for were full of bad practice. Just for you to have an idea, in all those years, I've only worked with test-driven development or even automated testing in the last few years. Yeah, you might have been wondering how I learned those concepts without working professionally on my daily job. and how I could still become proficient in such complex subjects. I tried practicing a bit every day, building personal projects and filling my GitHub with examples. This helps me to skill up my weaknesses and be ready for what the market needs. I don't rely on what I do for companies every day. I try learning concepts and practice to be always prepared for new opportunities. My point here is that your career is not made by working for companies, but by what you learn, practice, and experiment with in your free time. In my free time, I was writing blog posts, reading, and practicing those techniques I saw in the community by myself. When I finally got to the opportunity of working for a company that used those cutting-edge technologies, I was ready and I knew what I could do there. After so many years, I'd say that 90% of what I know now was acquired by studying and practicing myself. You shouldn't wait for your company to change the tech stack and use all the exciting tech we've seen out there. Because of this cycle of learning to teach, I started applying to tech conferences where most of people I admire were speaking. And this became so big that I was able to travel around the world. I've been to 10 different countries and have trained more than 100,000 people, even though I wasn't yet a specialist on the subject I was speaking of. I'd say that I love being at conferences with thousands of people staring at me, seeking for some tip or experience that they might find interesting, but the process to be at the conference sometimes is crazy. I said I've been to 10 different countries, however, I'd say I usually don't enjoy much of the countries I've been to. I often only get to know the airport, where the event happens, the hotel, a restaurant, and that's it. I'm gonna go through the process of being accepted to give a talk abroad later, but usually some events book the hotel room for me 2 days before the event and a day after so I can go back to the airport. I'd say this has changed after the pandemic, but usually on the first day I arrive late at night at the hotel. On the second day I go to the speaker's dinner or some warm-up meetup the event is organizing. And after the event, I just go back straight home or to the next conference. So you can imagine that even though I'm traveling to a new country, I'm not really on vacation or have time to make some tourism there. I feel like a rock band on a tour, traveling a lot, but they don't have much time to get to know the places. But you might wonder how much I get paid for those conferences. Well, most of the conferences don't pay speakers. They refund expenses up to a limit. For example, living in Brazil and flying to a conference in Europe is expensive. Usually, I'm the most expensive speaker if you compare me with those who already live around Europe. To prevent surprises, conference organizers specify a budget limit, and in case my flight is more expensive than the limit, I should cover the remaining amount. Well, it doesn't seem so exciting, right? Even when I pay the remaining amount and expenses when going far away usually pays off for me. The exposition of being on the top of the best events around the world with thousands of people listening to my content and enjoying helps me to reach even more customers. It empowers my branding and makes me sell more training courses, workshops, and software consultancies all over the globe. This is something I see people complaining about, that I'm paying to work. However, doing it carefully and with a good strategy, it turns into a real investment for me, so everything pays off in the end. In summary, giving talks give you the power to become a reference for what you work, and this leads you to better job opportunities, business deals, and much more. So if some conference can't afford your expenses, think about if it will be worth it for you as an investment. And it's important to point out that I know a lot of conferences that just make a lot of money using speakers and the community. They only think about profit, and sometimes they don't even help with meals. Once, a conference didn't pay for my trip, hotel, or meals. They even sent a message to the speakers that the speakers or the attendees couldn't take pictures of the talks, that we must pay for the event's official photographer to take pictures for us. Can you imagine how crazy is that? Oh my God. I have my personal list of conferences that I avoid even attending because of it. Although this is something you should analyze and think through. I always think if I agree with the event's ideology. how they treat speakers, and how they care about the event's content, diversity, and much more. Another misconception I hear from friends is that after so many talks, it's easy to go to the stage. Well, I'd say 5 minutes before, I feel completely anxious and overwhelmed. It's like a feeling of my whole life depends on what comes after, that everything should be perfect. My secret to controlling this storm of feelings is to have a deep breath. I go to the restroom, I look at the mirror, I have a deep breath 3 times at least, and I feel as new again. This is how I keep calm, relax, and enjoy while presenting my content to a big audience with thousands of people watching it out without worrying too much. The lesson I learned is about controlling emotions and enjoying what you do. This would help when you have an unexpected problem and you don't just freak out. You have time to think of a solution as soon as possible. Another thing I usually do is rehearse my talk as many times as I could. I present it to myself as if I was on the stage, and I even make jokes as if people were watching me. I got this practice and so many other tips from stand-up comedians. They master public speaking, and I got valuable lessons from them. Rehearsing helps me in 2 important things. To keep in time, one of the worst things you can do is to exceed or finish too early your talk. Is it 30 minutes? Try doing it in 28 minutes at home, so you won't gonna rush and miss any content you were supposed to speak about. If you finish it too early, the audience and organizers will assume that your content wasn't deep enough and you didn't prepare yourself. English vocabulary. As I don't speak English daily, a good way to avoid small mistakes is to try speaking the correct grammar and pronunciation during the rehearsal. If the word is too hard to pronounce, I try switching to the word for some synonym, so I ensure it won't block me during my presentation. In my mind, when I forget some word, I try saying some close synonym and even explain the action. This prevents me to get stuck or freak out. Then, when I go into the stage, my brain easily switches languages and remembers the words I wanted to say, as I've practiced a lot. I'm gonna talk to you now about how you can start applying to conferences and what you should be aware of before joining this world. Nowadays, I have a routine of accessing websites that gather events and that are accepting speaking applications. The speaking application is also known as call for papers. It's a Google form or a platform that asks you who you are and what's the subject you want to present. There, you usually put a good clickbait title and a brief description, and you describe why is your talk relevant to the audience. So here goes my tip for the call for papers process. Many conferences choose talks by the content, not by the speaker. So they remove all the name and all personal information, and a committee chooses the top 10 or top 20 talks for the event. If you submit just one talk proposal on the call for papers process, you have fewer chances, right? I've always sent at least 5 proposals per event to increase my odds. Conferences usually put the terms right on the website about whether they pay for all your expenses or not, so you can choose if you want to participate in the selection process. Supposing that you submitted your talks, now comes the hardest part of the process. When the conference is good, usually the competition is huge. You could compete with a lot of very good and experienced speakers around the world. Hundreds of speakers send multiple talks to the same conference, and only a dozen of them usually are approved. Just for you to have an idea, when I started, I sent more than 300 proposals for a few months to get my first approval. As you are competing with the whole world and maybe the best speakers out there, you're gonna get many rejections until you get your first approval. The main thing here is patience. Don't give up while you're receiving rejections. The way to improve is to get feedback from other speakers and conference organizers and make a killer talk proposal. Try checking out what the event approved on the last editions and analyze how other speakers write their proposals. The last golden tip I'll give to you today is where you can find the best events to apply to. The main website I've used is the conf.tech. However, in my opinion, the best platform for applying to conference is Sessionize. There, as a speaker, you can manage all talks, check the approval status on the events, and the best thing for me nowadays is that we can submit your talk proposal with a few clicks. There, you can also find events that match your skills and much more. Here's my Google Keep. When I find any interesting event, I gather all links with the due dates to send my proposals. And once in a while, I create a new talk proposal. You can check out my talk proposals on my website, as you can watch all talks I've given around the world. But let me summarize the lessons here. First, when you learn to teach, you learn faster. Don't wait to learn something at your current job. Use your free time to skill up your weaknesses and fill up your GitHub with projects. Use it as a portfolio of small examples so you can write about it. 2, you can make money, and good money, while producing content and speaking at conference, even if they don't pay you. There are so many ways to make money while producing content, such as sponsored posts, ads, affiliation, showing job opportunities on your slides, and much more. Don't lose opportunities to grow your personal branding. Analyze if you agree with how the event is organized and judge if it will be worth it for you. 3, the key for any presentation you wanna do is to control your emotions. Deep breath before going on stage, practice it in the mirror, and trust in yourself. Rehearse as much as you can and plan to deliver your presentation always in time. Not too early, nor exceeding it. 4, send more than one talk proposal. Don't give up with the rejections and establish a routine. Try searching for events once in a while, submit as many talks as you could, and try getting feedback from other speakers you admire, and don't give up. Learn from your rejections and make even better proposals. Go to small meetups to practice public speaking and use it as a continuous feedback tool. And 5, it's pretty hard to be accepted to give talks internationally, but it's not impossible. As hard as it seems, it's fun and always pay off in the end. However, it requires you hard work, strategy, and constantly improving. You can reach it if you really want and seek this for your career. Try following speakers you admire and conference organizers. Try learning what they expect from you on those steps I mentioned later. Now you know most of my secrets for speaking around the world, and now you can practice and start changing your life for good. I could have gone even further on this subject, but I will wait for your questions here in the comment sections. And send this video to all your colleagues that wish to start producing content or speaking at conferences abroad. I'm sure it could inspire them as well. Ufa, I hope you found this chat useful, and don't forget to check the content in English playlist here in the channel. I've been building a lot of new content and I'm sure you're gonna like it. And comment here below what you wanna see on the next video, and please send this video to all people at your work, your friends, and your study groups that I'm sure it can inspire them as well. I hope this content has exceeded your expectations. Subscribe to this channel so you can be notified about all new content I publish here. I'm Erick Wendel, and I'll see you on the next video. It helped me to become a dev specialist. Become. World. Oh my god. World. Essa parte de novo, cara. I came from a very poor city. Poor city. Initially were helping me on affording and transportation. Teaching sample. I remember that back. This helps me to skill up my weaknesses. Weaknesses. With those who already live in and enjoying helps me to read more. Which usually lasts 4 years. 4 years? No, 4 hours. I was doing simultaneously. Experienced ex-speakers. Ah.